Hey everyone, Luxqaer here. Today is Xenoblade Chronicles' 11th anniversary, a monumental day for Xenoblade fans. And soon in August and September, it will be the 10th anniversary of the English translation of Xenoblade Chronicles that was brought to Europe and Australia that took over the West by storm. It was then followed by pleas from fans to bring the game over to North America, but was humbly dismissed by Nintendo of America executives. A group called Operation Rainfall formed for these three games, Xenoblade Chronicles, The Last Story, and Pandora's Tower, hoping to see a Western release. They were all great games that the West very much craved in the onslaught of Call of Duties, Assassin's Creeds, and dumb EA Sports games that were crowding the Western market at the time. Eventually, those games managed to make it over to the West, but all but one game was put back in the shadows. The Last Story's producer, Hironobu Sakaguchi, says a few months ago that there is no hope to bring a remake because he did not think there would be not enough effort and resources. Nintendo has not shared any news on Pandora's Tower since its re-release on the Wii U Virtual Console in mid-2015. This leaves Xenoblade Chronicles to spawn a sequel, a spin-off, a prequel to the sequel, a port to the new 3DS release on the Wii U Virtual Console, a Switch remaster, 2 reps and Smash 3DS themes, wallpapers made by artists who work on the Xenogames amiibo, 3 1/8 scale pit figures that will empty my wallet like no one's business, merchandise on my Nintendo's website, a Twitter account, and so much more!
Prime time, baby!
It is crazy to think about how successful Xenoblade has gotten since those days as a niche JRPG that stood no chance to come to the West. There are already plenty of people that already know what this franchise is nowadays. Even people are acknowledging the games that predate the Xeno series. Xenogears by Square Enix, and the 3 Xenosaga games produced by Bandai Namco, all combined to create what we now know of as the Xeno series. So, what now? What am I here talking about all this? Over the years, I have seen the community grow into something greater, meatier. I want to talk about my time with the community, starting when I was just starting to learn about Xenoblade Chronicles. I also want to talk about my thoughts of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and Future Connected after a year of its release, and what the future holds for games coming out in the Xenoblade franchise. A Xenoblade YouTube creator by the name of Luxin posted on Twitter a month ago about remembering this person from high school who convinced me of his high school friends playing Xenoblade 1 that Ricky got eaten by a monster and it tasted good when his friends saw the name of the OST's title, Ricky's Tenderness? This got me thinking about my experience with talking to real-life people about a game series not many people know about. On last year's video on Xenoblade's first anniversary, I talked about how I wanted to tell more people about how great the game is. I never really talked about it much because I did not have many friends in high school that shared my interest. And I have not discovered Discord until my longtime friend from middle school introduced me to it. That friend was whom I shared my love with Xenoblade with, and he absolutely was enthralled by it. He would talk to me on the bus about it, what he did in the game, such as the Zazadon side quest, and convincing him the Napon Claymore was the better option to go with than the Emmy Leader side quest. Spoiler alert, getting the Carvel Shield's the better option. Do not be me from 2015, that's the worst me. Those times always made me laugh. He would also talk to me about what he did in Xenoblade Chronicles X, which we will talk about that game later. But just know there are hungry alligators in Noctilum. And soon after, he would talk about Xenoblade 2 with me, with Zeke being one of his favorite characters. His name is actually Zinkinator von Genbu, bringer of chaos, by the way. Although, we were a bit separate when discussing it. You see, this friend moved away from where I lived after we graduated from high school. It was kind of a stupid situation, but we managed to remain in contact with each other online through Twitter and Discord for over a year. But suddenly we could not contact each other anymore. I would try DMing him every so often, but he would just not respond back. It is really a shame, though sometimes you must move on from people who made you in high school and get to know more people and share experiences with them. This friend helps me reach more possibilities than I ever would have ever thought of at first, just as I've done with him in Xenoblade. Now for a much more lighter mood, I will make this short, but I really enjoyed what the changes the remaster brought to the Definitive Edition. So much of the game looks a lot nicer, and it really brought out the original for the game's atmosphere and look. The quality of life improvements added to the quests and battles were a huge benefit to go back to after not playing the game in a few years. It is also great for people who like to take screenshots of the game because of the added ability to turn off the HUD so it would not block the whole screen. I also really like that you could do video capture in that game, which Xenoblade failed to do for some godforsaken reason. I don't know why they did that. Though I did have issues with the remaster, mainly with there being not many changes to the original. There were not many other things to do besides the added challenge battle mode, which I did not think was very good. The challenges were really easy too, and they didn't take advantage of the strategy used similarly in 2's challenge battle mode. Instead, it was more of an excuse to grind Napon Stone to get the newly added outfits, which admittedly look great, but does not change much of the gameplay in any drastic way. Future Connected I have a love and hate relationship with. For one, I really enjoy the main cast of characters here, Melia especially, since the story is about her growing as a leader and leading the Hyantia people together, or just being the hope she will bring to them, and eventually achieving the goal in the end as well after defeating the Fall King, which is totally not a reference to the Goldos from Xenoblade 2. Ricky's children Kino and Nene are funny characters, although I did not care much for Kino mainly because of how he fights is very similar to Sharla's. I also like how they made Ricky a stronger character with their quiet moments, which I find pretty hilarious. Tyrea, though, is a much improved character from her past in Xenoblade 1's story. She helps the group out after recognizing Melia's goals as much stronger for it, as well as the quiet moment where she officially recognizes Melia as Empress of the Hyantia, which closes her arc very nicely. My only concern about her is I wish she was a playable character. That would have made her so much cooler for that. I also like going around the Bionis shoulder. It is the only area you would go to explore extensively, but since the game lasts under 10 hours, I didn't really mind this. I especially liked how the developers used an area originally cut from the original game and repurposed it for the main game's epilogue. I thought it was a great use of resources without using much of the game's budget to create a whole new area to explore. Now let's get into the issues. The battle system is extremely hampered because of Shulk losing his visions, making the battles extremely bare bones and just about waiting for the time for the enemy to attack and defend it. The Pond Specters are not very great in my opinion as a replacement for chain attacking. I know the developers were looking for an equitable replacement by finding the Pond Specters around the overworld and gaining more abilities from them, but I would end up using their ability to make them do more damage because I just want battles to end quicker. I did not like how some unique monsters in the Fog King himself would just straight up one-shot party member because they are toppled and it's very hard to strategize around that. I especially do not like final bosses in general ending the fight just like that because if you die you get sent back to the title screen and must start going through the cutscenes again. I felt Galgar was an awful character and did not contribute much of the main story besides being annoying and falling off a cliff in the final side quest of the game. I also felt the side plot with the racism of Machina and Pureblood Hyantia to be rather It's really hard to get a plot about ending racism right, especially when this story is on a budget, but this really detracted from Melia's main quest because the story isn't about Melia ending racist beliefs of the Hyantia. It's to take back the original home for all of them to live together, which will eventually find peace for all of them. Speaking of that original home, I did not like how Alchemoth was portrayed for the most part. The area feels empty where all you do is fight fog beasts and head to the final area to fight the Fog King. I did not like the reuse of Memory's End for the decaying Alchemoth. It just made the area feel emptier than it already is, which it really should not, because it is full of dangerous creatures infesting the once was lived in capital. In my opinion, they should have used an original Alchemoth theme, but more sorrowful instead of being in this grand area. I did not think Future Connected was a perfect experience. I get the epilogue was on a budget and the developers were using their resources on bigger projects, but most of the time playing it, I was wishing it would be something exciting. A true new Xenoblade experience instead of a budget Xenoblade game. I know Monolith is capable of something more than this. Speaking of Monolith Soft, who are the company responsible for the Xenoblade franchise, obviously have a lot on their hands, from being part of making Breath of the Wild 2, to Splatoon 3, to Animal Crossing updates. With about 300 talented employees under their belt, they're great about getting multiple projects done at once though. We also have gotten new concept art from a new IP they're hopefully going to show off soon. What I and many others want to see though is a port of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Remember how much my friend talked about X even though I have yet to play it yet? Well, this was due to me thinking about playing the game on more powerful hardware at the time. Yes, I am talking about the Nintendo NX, baby! Or that was what it was known as at the time. Out of all the games Nintendo could port to the Switch, Xenoblade X would be the best candidate. It has the largest world map out of any game to date, but the Wii U just could not keep up with how large the game is. Top that with a cliffhanger story and a dead online after Nintendo shut the Wii U's online down in 2017, and we are left with a game that is willing to go for a facelift, especially if we're getting a resolution to that dang cliffhanger I keep hearing about. I also want a remaster of some sort for Xenoblade 2. Not change the story, but add in those missing touches that would make the game more definitive than its past counterpart, such as a new story, content, just more meat to the game. Although it will likely happen until the Switch Pro comes out, so we can see the better capabilities of the remastered compared to the original game. Another thing I really want is a Xenogears port for modern consoles. This is an important classic RPG right next to Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Trigger. Having more people play this game experiencing the story it brought to the series would be great, and not deal with the high prices online. Same with Xenosaga, although Katsuhiro Harada, a director-producer at Bandai Namco, stated that a remaster would be challenging because there is not enough demand for the 3 episodes. But hey, the series has gotten much bigger with Pyra and Mythra being in Smash, and having another rep from Bandai Namco would be nice. Huh? Though I do not think we will see Xenoblade 3 anytime soon though. Although it may be in development as of now, Monolith has tied down too many projects at the moment if the company is going to make another Xenoblade game. I want them to make it their A+++++++++ game. I know I'm asking for a lot, but Xenoblade 1 and 2 have gotten so much praise from all across the community that 3 would have to put so much expectation on what direction this game could take. We will never know. E3 is just around the corner. So that is the anniversary video. All in all, I still do like Xenoblade Chronicles and still think of it as my favorite game of all time. I'm glad I got to make another video about this because there's so much to talk about with my experience with the series and its community. I originally in this video wanted to talk about my time with the community in this video, but I feel like I want to talk about other people's perspectives first before I give out my own opinion. I just feel like talking about just my own opinion about something would cause people to become angry with me, and I do not want it to become that. I was also planning to talk about the de-escalation of fan art that is coming from the community as well, but I feel like that could be saved for its own separate video because fan art ranges from various shapes and sizes. I'm not an artist myself, but I do know that art takes on a subjective stance, and right now I'm not one to cover something like that. And I want an input from an actual Xenoblade fan artist about what the community thinks of it overall. Anyways, I hope you like my video. If you do, it would not hurt to subscribe as well, and follow me on Twitter. I'm hoping to churn out more videos in the coming months, including my thoughts about this year's E3 and my reactions to all those things. It's going to be very cool. Also, make sure to check out my previous video about Xenoblade 1 in the video card and description of this video. Hopefully this will be a yearly thing just to talk about my love for this series. Anyways guys, see you on the other side!